Who don't like Pop Smoke? Shout out to Pop Smoke. Shout out to Brooklyn. Rest in peace. It's crazy, man. Running with our talented people, man. It's crazy. I'm an island boy. Alright, what's up? Oh, we ready? Yo, what's up, Dave? How you feeling, bro?
I'm always good, bro. Like, I don't really have a bad day. I'm chilling.
Come on, man. You gotta have bad days.
You see, usually it's like less good, but like, I'm such a chill dude that like, I mellow it out. I play a song and it changes my mood, bro.
That's smart. You gotta find a balance, right?
There's a balance for everything. You gotta take care of your mental, bro.
Stress over what you can control, man.
Exactly.
Most of the issues I've seen in life or things that I was concerned about, 99% of them never really even happened. Mm-hmm. I'm worrying about this, oh my God, this, and then like stressed over for a weekend, and at the end of the road is like, bro, why was I stressed? None of that happened, you know.
Exactly.
Learning how to deal with that.
That's the number one health factor right there. You gotta manage your stress. Otherwise, what's the point of living?
You right, man. You are right. You
exactly.
ready to get to it?
Let's wrap this up and head straight into it, bro.
Let's go. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It is episode 4 of the Professional Winner Show / podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Conyers. Well, your host, your guest, your executive producer, whatever you want to label me as, Jonathan Conyers, aka the Professional Winner, aka Mr. TPW. What's up? Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. Thank you for tuning in. Love you, respect you. Thank you for being here on episode 4 and following us on this journey. Let's go. Give yourself a round of applause. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. What's up, Gabe?
You know.
What's up, Gabe?
Just another episode. We're here in Brooklyn, hanging out.
Yo, let's wake Gabe up.
Most importantly, I do need some coffee, but besides that,
wake up, Gabe. Wake up.
I may need you to buy me a coffee, bro.
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. All right. So let's highlight onto one specific point of your life. You know, our last episode was a little bit, into Stony Brook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about after Stony Brook. Let's talk about your career. You have all these businesses, but you never really talked or specified on you being a medical professional, you being a respiratory therapist. So can you tell me, what is a respiratory therapist?
Oh, we getting straight to it. That's what we're doing today?
Let's do it.
You caught me off guard, but I'm ready. I'm always ready. All right. Respiratory therapist. So, respiratory therapist is usually a clinical professional that focuses on cardiopulmonary systems of the body. So, like for instance, right, you have doctors, right? You may have a neurologist, you may have a pediatrician, you may have a surgeon who works on cardiac, you may have a surgeon who just works on the brain, you may have a surgeon who specializes in the kidney. You have all these different fields and all these different specialties. You may have a nurse who works in the neuro ICU, you may have an emergency room nurse. Respiratory therapists, the beauty about our job is we are everywhere, because no matter what's going on and what process is happening within your body, usually when there's trauma, when there's stress to certain parts of your body, it always affects your breathing, your lungs, and your heart. So our job is protecting the lungs and protecting the airway so that other amazing professionals can do their job. So we're usually on the front line. We manage wonderful, difficult machines such as ventilators, which usually we take over people's respiratory drives and allow them to breathe and be able to deal with normal life functions. And, in college in Stony Brook, when I was in the respiratory program, they always talk to us about, if you can't breathe, nothing else matters. If I hold your mouth right now, or you are underwater, which you know about, you spend a lot of time underwater. If you're underwater and you can't breathe, you can't think about mommy, you can't think about daddy, you can't think about nothing. So that's how we always think about our profession and how critical we are to our medical team. We can go into a whole bunch more details, but essentially, hopefully that summary is decent enough for you guys, but that is what a respiratory therapist is.
Nice. Let's specify also on location. Where do you work, bro? Obviously, you're in New York.
Mm-hmm. So I work for NYU Langone Medical Center. But, as respiratory therapists, especially with COVID and all these things that we had to go through, we may go and work at other hospitals. We may volunteer. We may take contracts. So, this last year and 2 years, I've been kind of all over the place. And, it's always good to expand your wings and, figure out the routine and your job function in different locations and different hospitals, because what a respiratory therapist do in New York could be totally different from what a respiratory therapist do in a state like Virginia or North Carolina or something like that. So, in certain places you may have more autonomy, you may have more power. And in certain places you may not. You may just be given asthma treatments, but it all depends on your hospital. It all depends on, you as a clinical profession, how much involved you want to be in your profession. And I'm very thankful that I work for a place that allows me a lot of autonomy and allows me to really get in there and make a difference for my patients.
So in New York City, I mean, there's so many people, there's a lot of us. Right now, who are your patients? What's their age group?
Okay, so I work with neonates in pediatric population. So that's pretty much 0 to 18. So I work with kids. I really enjoy it. As a respiratory therapist, there are certain exams that we can take to specialize in certain fields. So I am a neonatal pediatric specialist. So that's a special specialty I have within my profession. We have adult critical care respiratory therapists. We have PFT respiratory therapists, which stands for pulmonary function test, where they look at the lung values and things within your lungs to see, assess how severe certain diseases is, like COPD, or, to see if you can actually do a certain type of surgery and, things like that, things of that nature, without trying to get into too much detail or use medical terminology.
You see, you're using all these medical things.
Yeah, I'm sorry, backtrack, but
it's easy for you. You gotta slow it down, bro. Slow it down. You're speaking another language to some people. I do art now.
I'm sorry, TBW family. But but just a summary of that whole big glob I just said. I specifically work with kids.
Nice.
Good.
No, that must be really tough, especially after, we just came out of it. Well, not really. We're still living through it. The pandemic itself. That 2019 to 2020 must have been a crazy year.
Yeah, man. It's tough, man. It's tough, especially working with kids, constantly seeing trauma, constantly, every day. I work in critical care. So, everybody always asks me, John, how was your day today at the hospital? I'm like, it's never roses and flowers,
Yeah.
I don't do step down units. Every time I walk in there is war. We're trying to, before COVID, even more during COVID, it's war. We're trying to save lives. Usually our kids are on some of the toughest machines. It takes a lot of effort. It's a collaborative effort. Teamwork is critical in those type of settings. And working for a prestigious hospital like I do, we see things that most places don't see. We get rare cases. We get a lot of international patients, and we're just trying to, change medicine and continue to be on the forefront and help save lives, man.
I mean, that's super brave. And, that's like living the real life hero, being a hero. And if anything, you're actually a hero to your kids or yourself,
Yeah.
How does it feel being a father and taking care of kids, but then going home to your own kid?
Ooh, what a question. I battled that a lot. Especially just on a personal note, my second daughter, Sophia, was in a NICU for a while. So
what is a NICU?
NICU stands for the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. So essentially, like if a kid is born very premature, or they're born before their due date, or they're born with any type of diseases, like something like meconium aspiration, right? Meconium aspiration is where feces is in the lungs. So, usually when a kid is born, we always get excited. Yay, the baby had his first poop. If the baby poops within the mother's belly, that is not a good sign for us. So something like that is always a critical situation.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, because remember, where would the poop go?
Yeah.
It usually goes umbilical cord, then it goes right back into the lungs, and then my pager goes off. Get here immediately. It's my job to solve that issue. We deal with the lungs, right? And if we can't fix that issue, we can't take over that airway. It doesn't matter if the kid is underweight. It doesn't matter if there's a neuro problem. The doctors can't do their job. The nurses can't do their job if we don't make sure the baby can at least breathe, or we can make sure this baby can survive. So something that's, of course, we say meconium aspiration. If I just said that, you'd be like, what? But when I say poop in the lungs, you say, whoa,
Yeah.
That sounds crazy. That sounds bad. So things that may be so simple, or we think that we take for granted, it's like it can be very big in a hospital.
Definitely.
And when you go home to your kids, sometimes you feel like, I just watch mothers cry all day. You ever heard a mother scream that just lost her baby? It's like an echo. Sometimes it haunts you. You have nightmares about it. When you're dealing with, a unit that as big and as world renowned as NYU, and you may have 50 babies in that unit at a time. That's it. And I may be responsible for 20 of those babies on a shift. So it's like going through life. It's like, all right, boom, this baby's okay. 19 more traumas to go through. This baby's okay. And then you help save 4, and then you page it, and then you get 3 that same day, new ones that's hurt, right? And it's just like a constant battle, a constant battle, a constant battle. And then when you go home and, you know, you nursed your kid back to health, and you're on the sidelines, and you can speak the language, you can do this job, but you have to just step back and pray that, people are as dedicated as you and watching your kid go through that. But it made me a better therapist because, it's different now when I go to the NICU. I treat everybody like I wanted people to treat Sophia when she was going through that process. She was born premature. So, I understand what it's like, being the guy in charge of the patient's care. And I understand what it's like being the guy on the sidelines, praying that everybody who's working for your kid actually cares about their job, are knowledgeable in what they're doing, and just creating this trust factor.
So is that why you decided to work with that age group?
No, so I was already working as a neonatal pediatric specialist before Sophia was born. What really drew me to respiratory therapy is my mom, which we kind of hinted on in episode 2 or 3. My mom, when I was 9 years old, my mom was diagnosed with a disease called multiple sclerosis. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I remember coming home. I was living in Virginia at this time, living in an area called Holly Cove in Chesapeake, Virginia. Not known as a good area. It's considered a very bad area. I was coming home, and I just remember my mom crying. And she hugged me and said, "I'm going to die. I apologize. I'm going to die." And in the middle of that, we was already going through some legal troubles because my mom was still in checks from the neighbor, and cashing and doing some scamming, again, drug problems, and making sure, trying to take care of 5 kids while you're balancing your own demons. So we were already going through that issue. So we already thought my mom was going to jail. And then now my mother kept falling on the floor and nobody knew why. And eventually we got this huge document, and it showed the picture of my mom's brain. And you just see all these huge holes. And basically the hospital said that we caught the disease too late. They gave my mom probably like 12 months to live. So, hearing your mom say that, and, when that happened, instantly I started to say, I'm going to save you, Mom. Don't worry. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I got drawn into, that's when I always said at 9, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be this. So that was really how my journey in medicine started. I won't really say really, it ain't like I went to the library that day and opened a medical journal and said, I'm going to read every day. It's just mentally, I always say, I want to help people. I don't want people to feel like how I felt at 9. So that was always my first thought. And that was when I first started to say, I'm going to work in medicine. Did I really believe it at 9? No. I think I just said it because of what I was going through.
Dang. That's a lot of trauma to go through as a kid.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, maybe because of all the trauma I went through as a kid, I chose a profession that just deal with trauma. I don't know. I think trauma attracts trauma sometimes.
Do you feel like it's easier for you to deal with that trauma?
I think I never want to normalize trauma. I don't think it's easy to deal with, but well, in a way, yes, I think it's easier to deal with. But the true question I need to ask myself: am I really dealing with it? I need to look at my health. I need to look at my outlets. Am I drinking too much? Like, what am I really doing to deal with the problem? And a lot of these issues I do have, I haven't really faced it, and that's just me being vulnerable and honest. Which we said we will always be honest with the TPW family. So no, I don't really feel like I'm dealing with it, but I've normalized it, which I don't think you should do. I've normalized it. I made it a part of me. And for some reason, I always go back to it, even when I want to step away from it. And I go back to it at the sacrifice of my mental health, at the sacrifice of my peace. And sometimes I just, sometimes you help people and you love what you do, but somebody has to suffer for it. And most of the time I let it be me. Because I can't let it be my patients. I can't let it be the babies. I can't let it be the parents I work my behind off for. I can't let it be my wife. I can't let it be my kids. So most of the time I take it on the chin. And, as I start to get more mature, as I get older, as I start to have these real conversations about mental health, which sometimes in the Black society growing up, mommy, daddy secrets is mommy, daddy secrets. You shut up, you keep your head down, you don't talk about what goes on in this house. And as you know, as I've been entering this new age and this new person I'm trying to become, is like I've been seeing what, dealing with trauma and dealing with all these things are starting to do to me, and I don't like it. So, I need to start having these conversations. I've talked to my parents about being more vulnerable and being more open about my story and my truth. And I hope that they never see it as disrespect, or I hope they don't think that, I'm trying to create a platform based on this sad story, which it's not. It's just, this is therapeutic for me, So it's bigger than the podcast, it's bigger than the audience. I don't care if 7 people watch this video. It's about me. It's not about nothing else.
I see. So going back to that idea of trauma attracting trauma, do you feel like is that the reason why you tend to try to help the underdog?
I think it's survivor's guilt. Sometimes when you grow up, I look at most of my best friends. Most of them are either, dead, in jail, or at some point throughout our journey, I just couldn't relate to them no more. I just couldn't do the things they were doing no more because I had kids early. I wanted to be a good role model for my kids. I wanted to, just try to continue to grow. And then sometimes when you come from certain environments, people are constantly just staying in this cycle, and you gotta learn to separate yourself. And but at the same time, I always ask myself, why me? God, why was I chosen? Why did Imani come to me and say, hey, you should apply to MS Square and go to Phillips Academy boarding school in the summer?
Yeah.
That's just a random conversation. Why all my 3 friends, why was I the only one at 13, 14 to fill out the application and try it? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. It wasn't that I was thinking sharp at the time. I just did it. I didn't know at that point what going to that boarding school every summer and what that education would do for me, how it would change my life. Why did I get to meet a Deco? Why did I get an amazing debate coach that never gave up on me, that took me to Harvard, that took me to Yale, that, allowed me to debate at the highest stages and, almost be the first Black person to win Harvard Invitational, Like, how did that person cross my path, How did I end up going to FDA when it was prestigious at that time? Why was I selected into that school?
Do you still ask yourself that question? Why do I, why did Bobby come my way for me to help make a change?
Even that, like, was I randomly stopped on the street by Richard to get introduced to help with Bobby? Like,
will you ever stop asking yourself why and just start accepting that, wow, this is like, I don't know if this is a good hand or good fate, but I'm just going to make the best out of it?
I think for my mental health, I need to stop, feeling guilty about me being able to come out of my circumstances and always feeling like I'm putting myself back into those circumstances to help people that just probably don't want to change, to help family members that just don't get it or just don't have the work ethic that I have, or constantly beating myself up, trying to make people see that they are special, to see that your circumstances don't define you. I think it's going to take time, but some days I just don't know why I feel guilty about being in the position I am. And it's weird. You think you're supposed to, the more you climb, the more powerful you get, quote unquote, whatever that means, or the more money you make, you think, oh, I'm supposed to find happiness. But it feels like I get more guilty. I feel more guilty. I feel more sad about it. Maybe because people are not coming with me like I want them to. It's like, okay, if I got $1 million and I got a mansion, but I'm the only person in the house, and all the people I love about is doing the projects, did I really win? If I go get on the jet and I'm chilling, I can go travel the world, but I'm doing it by myself, did I really win? But at what point are you going to keep bringing people up? Because the more I put people in my circle that are just not doing their share part, the more I'm just going to keep giving. And there's no cutoff point of when you're a giver, Yeah. Nobody says, yo, you helped pay my mortgage the last 3 months. Let me stop asking you. As long as you keep giving, they keep asking. So, it's tough and it's weird, and it's something that I have to deal with internally.
Damn, bro, that's deep. That's a lot. It's a lot to take in, and I can understand that. I'm a giver myself, and talking about giving, the season of giving is coming. You're gonna be giving me a new raise, a new paycheck.
Yo, did you just buy a G-Wagon?
Bruh, what?
Let's clap for Gabe and his G-Wagon.
Yo, man. Come on.
I need a raise. Come on.
If I had a G-Wagon, would I? Come on. You know me, I want a Tesla, bro. I want a Tesla.
You want a Tesla?
Yeah.
Dang, What you
Shout out to Elon.
Word. Yo, can I email you the coins I got so you can tweet about it?
Red? Bro, we should make our own coin.
Come TPW coin.
TPW coin.
Coming. I don't know.
TPW NFT. Come on. Oh, you gotta do everything now at this point.
Oh, we working on the NFT. Don't worry.
Oh man,
that's coming soon. I'm not going to even give you the website yet. But it's coming soon. But just real quick though, I just wanted to say something to the TPW family. Like, your mental health is critical, man. And if you are at the point in your life where you have had a lot of success, I'm pretty sure you have realized that is just one little piece of your daily mental health balance. You know, there's multiple ways you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself physically, financially, mentally, and don't allow other people's journey or story to determine where you should be at mentally. Because I know sometimes, I've had a lot of friends who really know my story and they will be going through a lot. And I would say, as your brother, as your friend, why didn't you come to me? It's priceless, to have a phone call. That just takes time. And if I'm really your friend, if I really care about you, I'm willing to give you that time. And people will say, hey man, look at what you're going through. Look at the things that you're facing. How could I come to you with a problem? And here's what I used to always say. I had a friend who mom had cancer. And then I had another friend, crazy, it's like back to back, who mom had cancer. One of my friends used to say, Jonathan, I know this sounds crazy. As a medical professional, you should understand, I'm happy. She's been through so much. I just want to go in peace. I want to enter this new realm. His faith was big. His faith was important. He said, it's okay, man. I'm really at peace with this. I just want her to stop suffering. And this world has done nothing but made my mom suffer. And, I was like, wow, that perspective was just something I never heard of. Then I called my other friend. It was a mess. He was like, I'm going to kill myself if something happened to my mom. I cannot live without her. I am not ready. And I was like, same situation, but two different perspectives. And I couldn't go to this friend and say, hey, look at him. He understands that this is just part of life and he's accepting it, because it's not fair, because what he's going through mentally has nothing to do with what my other friend was going to. And that's how you guys have to see it. You have to understand that your mental health journey is strictly about you, not what this person's going through, not to try to put a label on this person and say his trauma is worse than yours. You are in control and you determine how things make you feel. And no matter how it makes you feel, you have to find ways and outlets to deal with that mental health, and positive outlets, because we all have outlets, and the majority of us choose bad outlets, whether it's drugs, whether it's drinking, whether it's, having an outburst or outlashing, whether it's taking out other people. So, mental health is critical, and we really have to pay attention to these things, and we really have to focus on these things. So I just wanted to say that to people. It's
definitely needed to be said, especially, as a male and a society where you basically telling your emotions is considered to be weak. It's hard to even get past that sometimes, that, talking and communicating your feelings and who you are and how you feel about things. It's a necessity, and honestly, it should be normalized. And we slowly are coming to a point in society where we're trying to normalize it, but it's always needed to be said.
Yeah, we all people, man. I don't care the gender, I don't care the color, I don't care the pronoun. We're all people. And, our gender shouldn't determine how we handle our emotions. Men should cry. I'm going to prioritize that to my son, Junior. Cry, man. You got to find outlets. And I grew up like that, so hard, so sheltered, and really when I entered Stony Brook, that's when I understood that my story has power. My journey has power, and I feel like I could tell my story, I could tell my truth without trying to hurt people. And if somebody is hurt at me sharing my truth, that is a personal issue between them and their choices. I can't think about that. But of me coming on this camera and telling you that I am not perfect, regardless of what a blog may say, or regardless of how many followers or what you may see me as, I think that adds a lot of value. And people with platforms need to start telling people that they are not perfect, that they have demons, that they go through struggles, and that a fancy car or even a strong relationship or a strong partnership or a beautiful family does not always change the fact that we still go through things. No matter where you at in your life, you're gonna find problems, and that's just what it is.
That's very true. Perfection is a fool's game.
Yes.
Very, very true. Now that we're on the idea of your mental, let's go back to your mental.
Okay.
you were going through the whole COVID pandemic and everything, right?
Yeah.
How did COVID affect your mentality? What does death mean to you?
Mm. What does death mean to me? I think it's just a part of life. It's just a part of the journey. I face death so much, every death, and excuse me, not me personally, like I see death so much and I accept it so much, when I have certain patients and, I may see things and I just realize that it's okay. And that question is a very good question and it kind of links to why I work with kids. And I've talked to very good friends of mine in the hospital, and we all have different perspectives on this. I have friends who say, I could never watch a kid suffer. I don't know, John, why do you love the kid so much? Why do you keep going into that unit? Like, I can't watch a kid suffer. This kid don't deserve it. This kid is born with these type of situations. And I say the opposite. I can't watch adults. I don't want to deal with adults. Because when I look at a grown man or a grown woman in the 70s, I could feel their fears. I could feel their regrets. I could feel their pain. I don't know what happens when I turn off that ventilator. I don't know what happens when I take that tube out of them and we have came to the conclusion that this is the end for you. You can feel the energy. You can feel like this person don't know what's at the end of this road when their eyes close. And I feel like you take on a lot of that energy. Their demons, their flaws. They talk more. They know they're going. They talk more about their regrets, things they should have did better. And to me, that's a lot to deal with. Because then I have to constantly reevaluate what I'm doing and how I want to go. Because those are things that I've thought about. But with kids, I don't feel that. I feel like I know where they're going. I feel like there's a life after this for them. I feel their innocence. It makes me want to deal with it more. It makes me want to protect them more. It makes me want to learn more. It makes me want to go out into my field and study more. Because I just feel a different type of dedication, a different type of passion. And when you work in this type of profession, you have to find the passion. You're not going to find it. I don't think about, I could say 10 kids and lose one. I don't go home and say, 10 today, baby, 10 for one. I only think about the one I've lost. I only think about the mom that I had to talk to for 40 minutes, the mom I hugged, the dad that was sad. I don't think about the 10 that I helped. And even though, I've been very fortunate in my career to have saved much more than I've lost, the ones that I didn't save haunts me. The ones that, and when I say, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about just me and our whole team. The ones that we didn't save will haunt me personally. I don't know how other people feel. So, and I try not to normalize it. Some days I find myself normalizing these things. And then I start to say, am I less human? Am I less human that I'm not afraid of death? Am I less human that I understand that this is just a part of my journey? So death means a lot to me. I can't give you a simple answer. When I'm in the NICU, sometimes I think death is a beautiful thing because I have a strong faith and I think that I know where my babies are going. I know that there's a life after this for them. And sometimes when I'm an adult, when you look at certain people demons, certain things they choose, I am not their maker. I don't determine their fate. But they have had plenty of years throughout their life to make choices and to correct things or to not correct things. So it's a guessing game for me mentally. I don't have to guess when I'm with my babies.
If I were to work in a hospital, I would also want to work with kids. I just feel like naturally being born is something that is new, it's fresh. And because it's so new and fresh, those kids are constantly learning and like wanting to learn. And it's just such an optimistic way of living because everything is new. However, learning later on down the line, it's like pessimism. It comes down to it's just living after so long. It's like you learn to be negative after all those experiences. Yeah. Being a kid, everything is so new. That's just like, it's such a positive experience that it makes you think about, your outlook on life itself. So are you an optimist or do you feel like you're a pessimist?
I think I'm an optimist. And I always say, it's just like, besides the hospital, when you look at life, when you're trying to help, when I'm trying to give back, I always say focus on the youth. It's very hard for me to change you, Gabe. You're a grown man, you're stuck in your ways, right? And I'm not saying I need to change you. I'm not saying that you have bad ways. I'm just saying, like, even me, like, you may see something about me. It's like, I said, probably 40 times already this podcast. I keep doing this. I don't know why. I keep moving, taking myself out of frame, talking fast. Those are just things that I have to work on, right? Maybe by episode 100, I'll be better, right? But you're very stuck in your ways, and it's very hard when you have certain patterns, certain traits, certain nerves to change those things. It takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of paying attention to who you are to really change. But with the kids, man, you just see the growth from when they're born and today when they walk out the hospital. Some kids, they're in the hospital with me for 8 months. They become like my kids. Most of the kids I deal with, it's not in and out. It's a 4 or 5 month journey with them most of the time. Babies that are born very premature, born with their lungs not being developed. We have babies born with no eyes sometimes. They're so small. I have babies that I take care of that could fit in my hand. And I look at them now at 3 and they're in preschool running around like nothing happened. Like, it's amazing what we can do. And you have asked me this, everybody asked me this, like, John, why do you keep going to the hospital? You shouldn't have to go no more. Like, you're in a better position financially. And I was like, who told you I dedicated my life to this for money? When COVID happened, we got the Bobby deal during COVID. There was other big clients that about that I'm not going to say, that things was happening, and it was a beautiful time for me financially and the business side. Emotionally, dealing with the stresses of my kids changing and COVID, it was horrible. But things was happening so good in my life, it was like, I could step away from this and be okay. But I couldn't. I trained my whole life for this, and I'm going to leave my friends, my family, my soldiers during war? No. You don't spend your whole life preparing for war, and then when the war happened, you say deuces. So that's when I knew I loved this. That's when I knew I was built for this. That's what I knew what my passion was. Because even though I didn't have to wake up at 4 in the morning and stay in that hospital for 15 hours and stay in hotels and talk to my daughters from glasses because I was so afraid to bring something to them, which unfortunately, we can talk about that did end up happening. But to be able to have to go through that, and my family took a major hit from my wife anxiety with me being gone all the time. There was a time where I was really sick, where I had to lock myself into the basement for almost a week. I couldn't breathe. My test came back negative. They said it wasn't COVID. It felt like it. Everything I see people go through, it was a tough time for me. Staying in hotels, but no matter how much I tried to talk myself out of saying, John, just leave. You don't need the money. What are you doing? I couldn't leave. And that was a real awakening. I felt, at the end of it, I felt like a better person. I felt like I really am a good person.
That's awesome.
I'm not pretending, like I really love this. Like, even when I didn't want to do it, some days I was working 6 days a week, 14 hours a day.
So people tend to focus on the negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's an easy thing to do. That's how we watch the news and that's all you see. You see the negative, right? However, when you come to the conclusion of death and life now in your eyes, do you feel like you see more death or do you see more life? Do you concentrate more now on all those deaths, or can you count on your fingers how many people you saw die versus how many people you helped save?
No. I've been doing this for too long now. No. Both of them, and it could be in 3 digits. Especially during COVID. I've had 5 people die on me a day sometimes, like for like a week straight. What's that? 7 times 5, 75 people right there, right? So when you've been doing this for years, I can't, but I definitely know the number of people that I've been a part of saving has been much greater than the deaths. But again, like you said, like it's just maybe it's human nature. Maybe it is because, I'm just the type of person where, like, even now, like, you always try to remind me, like, bro, like, I always feel like I'm not doing enough. Like, I'm always like, we was on the phone at 5 this morning, right? Had some delays, had to take my kids to school, I had to do some things that, is a part of my routine that I always make sure happen. But just constantly working, and sometimes I just work so much so I can just stay away from certain things. So I don't have to think about certain things. I don't have the mental space to even focus on my mental health because I just keep working nonstop. And maybe it's an outlet for me to not deal with things or not look myself in the mirror sometimes. But, it's unfortunate, but it's true, right? I just tend to focus on the death more. I tend to focus on the things that people I didn't help, And
I guess that is kind of human nature.
Yeah, but I definitely have seen more life.
Yeah.
I definitely have seen more living. I've definitely seen more success stories. And I've definitely, my faith in medicine as a whole has increased, based on the people we are to save. Now, do I like the hospital structures? Some hospitals are amazing and some you just see like it's too much of a business now. And that's where my love has started to go away from it, because as a guy who owns multiple businesses, I'm like, this ain't the place where I want to be do business. My only goal is to help people. Like, we don't need to profit off everything. I know we're a capitalist society, but come on. Certain things just need to be strict. There should be barriers on it, and we should maintain certain goals.
So then let's rewind and let's hit back on COVID. Let's start back to the beginning of, I guess, it was the end of 2019, going to 2020. That's when it was prime COVID. You're in the hospital. You have to sign something new, and you're going back to back in the hospital. You're talking about business, and that was a time where a lot of people are like, wow, like, who do we save? Who do we put on these ventilators? And who do we let go? Let's start and let's hear the beginning of it.
Can I start with a story?
Of course.
I'm going to go to a story. And I think this story maybe can help sum up that question because, like, again, the one thing I have to be conscious of is that there's certain things I'm not going to say. And
of course.
I worked through so many hospitals during the COVID pandemic, still during the COVID pandemic, that I'm not going to label a hospital. I can't say patients' names and things like that, but I had this amazing story. And this kind of summed up my COVID experience and how hurtful and crazy it was. And I always say, where's my mom and dad? When anybody asks me, I kept a journal. And that journal, and maybe I will release that journal. So in the journal, I would keep kind of my thoughts day by day because I knew what I was facing and I wanted to be able to say, like, on this moment, that's how I felt. Now I'm able to reflect on a lot of things, but, during this time, I kept the journal. And regardless of journal or not, like, this story is always going to stick to me. And excuse me, I said amazing story. There's nothing amazing about it. I misspoke. But back to where's my mom and where's my dad. The reason why I always started off like that is because those words always echo in my ears. Sometimes I have dreams about it. Sometimes I pray and I wonder what's going on with this patient, even though I don't have the answer to that. I don't know how the story ends. But I had this patient, young woman, probably in high school. Well, not probably, is in high school. Come to the hospital. I'm in a facility in Long Island. This was around the time where everybody was like, COVID really doesn't affect kids. It's really older. You have to have some precondition. And then tables start to turn. More misinformation given to us. Tables are starting to turn. Kids are coming in more now. Most kids did have preset conditions. And what I mean by that is, probably had Down syndrome, had, bad asthma, or they were born with some type of disease that already weakened their immune system and they had a lot of conditions going on. However, this kid was normal, no issues, no history of nothing, in shape, not obese or anything like that. There was no underlying issue to link how bad her reaction was to COVID. And after at least 24 to 48 hours, I would like to say, of the patient being in the hospital, we had to intubate this patient. And if you don't know what intubation is, it's basically we put a tube down the patient's throat, and then we connect ventilators to that tube, and that's what allows us to breathe for the patient. So if a patient is very sick, they can't breathe, or we want to just let them rest as we try to fix other things that may be going on within their body, we will intubate them and use ventilators. Most people who had COVID had respiratory diseases, so that's why a person like me was very always in their face, always on top of them, because most of the patients that came in the hospital very sick, they needed to be intubated. So this patient is intubated. We're communicating with the parents. We're keeping them updated on what's going on. And probably 24 hours after the intubation, the patient mom come into the facility. And when the patient mom came, she was now very sick. We ended up intubating the mom almost immediately. And the mom bed was right next to her daughter's. A couple of hours after that, the dad comes into the emergency room. He's very sick. He ends up getting intubated right next to his wife and his daughter. Throughout that week or so, both the parents coded and eventually ended up passing away, right next to their daughter. A couple of weeks later, she wakes up. And the first thing she asks me, I take the tube out, I remove the tube. You know, obviously when you've been intubated for a long period of time, you had a tube in your airway, you know, you sound hoarse, you know, she's spitting up mucus. You know, I'm looking at the labs, I'm looking at the numbers, saturation, how all of those things, we don't have to talk about, give detail about, but I'm doing my job and I'm assessing to make sure that this patient is okay. And the first thing that she said to me was, where's my mom and where's my dad? And no matter how bad the situation gets, no matter how horrible the story is, as a professional, it's my job to keep cool, it's my job to stay calm, and it's my job to, you know, try to deflect or stay away from things or don't say certain things, because usually in my profession, it's not my job to tell families, you know, what's going on or what's the end results. That's what the doctor's for. But I froze, and I'm ashamed of it. I'm not happy to admit it, but I kind of froze. And I guess my face said it all. And instantly, based off my reaction and me being speechless, I could see there was like a slight panic and asked, where's my mom? Where's my dad? Where's my mom? Where's my dad? And where's my mom? Where's my dad? And eventually, the medical professional team came over and explained. And I just remember this loud scream. And you could just hear, it's my fault, it's my fault. Oh, I should have listened, this, that, and the third. And it was one of my toughest days during COVID, because now you have this kid who's already probably been isolated, who high school career is changing because of this horrible disease. Now you just lost both of your parents. And another thing is why this patient felt guilt was because in the middle of us trying to figure out how this happened, how was this family affected, where, you know, at this point, everything was locked down, nobody's supposed to be going outside, we had curfews and all these things. Come to find out that this young lady went to a party. And at that party, the assumption is that she contracted COVID, and then she gave it to her parents. Nobody can prove that. Nobody wants to put blame on this young lady, but it did happen. And we can't, you know, like again, we don't want to say it's your fault or anything like that. And regardless of it is, you know, regardless of the situation, you know, the things that we thought may have happened, you don't want the patient to feel any type of blame, any type of hurt. So, you know, you're trying to console her, you're trying to talk to her, you're trying to make her feel better, but how could you? She would now probably have to spend her life in the system, finish our high school career in the system. She has to worry about the guilt of maybe I'm the reason that both of my parents are no longer here. And that was just a lot for a lot of 16-year-olds to carry. And what people don't understand was that all of these people that were dying, there was so many families affected by this. There was a lot of kids affected by this. People losing their grandparents, people losing their moms and dad. You know, it was one of those things also where we talked about the group home last episode. You know, that story also contributed to me wanting to start a group home, because it was girls like her, and it's like, where will she go? Eventually, somebody's going to see her as a dollar sign. They're not going to ask about the history. They're not going to really try to dissect and mentally literally give this girl the resources she needs to still be productive in society. And it was one of those things where I just kept beating myself up about it, and all of these kids that would now be in the system, you know, all the rates was going up as far as violence and, you know, kids entering the juvenile system because everybody's home, everybody's bored. You know, people are losing their family, people are, you know, having these outbreaks and doing things that was unimaginable, and a lot of people didn't really get to see that. All you got to see was just missing information all the time on the news.
So I do have a question for you, because during that time you were telling me you had to work almost every single day. Like, it was pretty, you didn't really have time for yourself. And earlier you were talking about outlets, you know? If you had no time for yourself, you were coming home and like maybe, or you weren't even going home. You had to go to a hotel. You had to spend time away from the family. What were you doing to remove that stress? What was your outlet at that time?
I wouldn't say that there wasn't time to have an outlet. You know, sometimes you'll go into a bathroom, you'll go in the corner, you just break down. And you wipe your face, you go back into the fire. And we cried together, we prayed together. You know, you ask why is this happening? Like, please, I can't run to another code. I can't watch another person die. I can't keep looking at the fear of, the fear in my colleagues' eyes. And then you gotta understand that we're losing friends. We have our own family members dying from this, right? I have colleagues dying. People I work with for years. It's like, where are they? Oh, he's intubated in the hospital. You know, like when you said, like in the middle of it, man, we were dropping like flies. A lot of our staff before we really, because of the misinformation and people giving us the information late. And then we found out that, oh, half the staff had it already before the government really announced this was COVID and this really was a thing, before people kept downgrading it, before we start wearing masks, before we start protecting ourselves. So, it was a lot of situations that was just hurtful. And, besides the where's my mom, where's my dad story, walking into the hospital, people are not with their loved ones. People are having babies and their mom are not there. Women are doing one of the most special moments, giving birth. And, we're arguing if the husband can watch his child be born. We're arguing if the grandparents can come visit their grandchild. People dying and, people crying to me, please, I don't want to go, hold my hand. And it's like they're strangers, but they became family. Talking to men my age, and it's like, some people just, this is not real. You're dying, man. Look at you. This is not real. You're not going to put a tube down my throat. You're not going to inject me with anything. You're not. And then it's like, you have to call the family. She or he is withdrawing care. They don't want us to help. Based on what we think, we don't know if your mom and dad is going to last much longer. Please, don't listen. Let me come in the hospital. You can't. I'm sorry. Don't listen to them. Do whatever you can. We cannot go against their wishes. So you're holding people's hands. It's like I'm walking into rooms, I'm coming out of rooms, I feel like the Grim Reaper, bringing in the machine and staring at this person, and they're like, oh, what's that? And I'm having a normal conversation. It's a machine that we're gonna use. You're having a hard time breathing. I'm gonna put it in, and eventually if you get better, I'll take it out, and everything will be okay. In the back of my hand, I'm saying, this is it. This is it for you. This is it for you, and you know it, and you feel it, and it's like you're just doing it over and over and over again. It's like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to just be a part of the problem. I signed up to help people. But then I don't have the resources. I don't have the information. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how to tackle this. So, I got to watch 100 people die until we figure out what's really happening. It's a type of stress, and it's a type of thing that put me in a bad place for quite a long time. But, I just stayed to myself, sucked it up, and I kept a smile on my face. So
It's hard to do, man. It's really hard to do. I mean, damn. This is why I'm not working in the hospital. That's a lot of stress to deal with on a daily basis, and it's a lot of stress to deal with while having a family. I mean, it's intense. So let's keep backtracking. Let's keep talking about COVID now that we're on the topic. Did you personally actually ever contract COVID? Did anyone in your family?
So I didn't get COVID when my daughter Sophia had a positive test for COVID.
How old was she at the time?
Sophia was 2.
2 years old. Wow.
And also, it was a lot of fear because Sophia was my child that was born in the NICU who had lung issues when she was born, but no sympathy needed. I thought it was a joke. She had boogers for one day and she did backflips off the bed for the week after. So, personally, I did have cousins and family members who did pass away from it, unfortunately. But my siblings, my mom, my dad, my wife, my kids, none of us was really affected by it through the grace of God. So,
how do you think she got COVID?
I don't know. There was days where I doubted if it was a real, it was a false positive. You're trying to stick things up to your nose, you don't really get the full, get the real full PCR results. But it could have been numerous ways. Maybe one of the days where I visited her. But if I never had it, that don't make sense. But there was plenty of times where I felt sick, but we was working. I had negative results. So
that's tough, man. Blessings to everyone out there that dealt with the COVID pandemic. I mean, we're still going through it now, and let's just stay strong together, and hopefully hopefully everything's going to turn out to be even better. Now let's talk about another sensitive topic and talking about going towards a better situation. How do you feel about vaccination?
Cancel me on episode 4.
Okay.
Okay. I see two sides of it. I understand. First, I am not the guy. I am vaccinated. All right? I'm vaccinated.
Well, you have to because you work in a hospital. Is that why you got it?
Well, I don't have to be nothing. The choice was not because of the hospital and the pressure going to the hospital. If it was something I really was against, that would have been the end of my stay at the hospital. I would not have made that decision for me. Unfortunately, due to certain things I am outside of the hospital, I think I have enough resources and finance to be totally fine without working in the hospital. Without the hospital or with the hospital, I would have received the vaccine. I was actually one of the first people I think offered it to, in New York. NYU, we probably received the doses before any other hospital. I could have been probably one of the first 10 people in New York to get it. I denied it for like probably 5 to 6 months. And I waited for more research. I waited for more data. I waited till I was more in a comfortable state before I received it. Now, for the people who don't want to receive the vaccine, I respect your choice. I respect your opinion. And whoever makes you feel bad for the decision you're making, they are wrong, they're unfair, and they're insensitive. And here's why. Especially if you are Black in America. We have constantly seen how this government, this nation, has done things to us, specifically within medicine, that has created fear, that has created doubt within our community. So I'm sensitive to that. I understand that. We have also seen so much misinformation. We've seen how we have politicized this pandemic, how we have pushed a lot of fear onto people, and how misinformation was constantly spread. I understand those things. And one of the things that really bothered me, when you have these people in power, when you have, these individuals in research constantly coming up, changing the narrative, one day you can wear a mask, one day you can't wear a mask, I think it caused a lot of issues within our nation. We as a nation was rated #1 in pandemic response. They said if anything was to happen, we was the #1 nation in the country that was supposed to be ready for a pandemic. Before COVID, we was rated #1, the United States of America. The United States of America takes up 4% of the world's population. Yet we had 25% of the world's cases. That bothers me. Misinformation, data can be lied. I can pay to make sure this video has 100,000 views. What does that accomplish for me personally? How do I create a real fan base, a real audience? Sometimes in this world, we constantly falsify things, we constantly do things to make us seem like we're in a position that we're not. And America did that for too long, and now we are suffering the consequences for it. There's no way we're #1 rated for pandemic response, and we have the majority of cases with not even having the majority of people in the world. We were not prepared. We have people going on TV who don't know what we're dealing with. It is a new virus. Part of being a professional winner is what? Saying, I don't know the answers. Now I get it. The American people want a response. If Dr. Fauci goes up there and say, I don't know what's going on, that will create fear in everybody. That will say, you as our leader, you as our head, how do you not know what's going on? But that is insensitive and that is unfair to him. Because this is a new virus, this is a new disease. How overnight are we supposed to have the answers? Somebody responsible should have came on that camera and said, to the American people, we apologize. There's people dying. We're doing anything that we can to make sure we can prevent this. But we do not have the answers, and we're fighting day and night to have the answers. Now, I'm not a politician. Maybe that could have led to a worse result and really, for the administration, if you seem like you don't have a grasp on every little thing, we scrutinize them, we attack them. So is it really our fault by how we treat the political system? There was just so many things happening where people felt like they needed answers, but they didn't have the answers. And I know they didn't have the answers because me personally had to really deal with the repercussions of that on a day-to-day basis, putting my life on the line and not having resources or policies and guidelines changing by the minute of how we should treat these patients. That was one thing that bothered me. Number 2, maybe I'm on number 3, I don't know. the idea that the vaccine was created too fast and that being looked frowned upon is also an issue to me. We as a nation, when you put resources, American dollars, international dollars, everybody had to care about this issue. Instead of saying this happened too fast, no, it didn't happen too fast. That was to show us that if we put money into things and we put resources into things, we can get answers much faster. All of these type of diseases that we have out here that we still don't have answers for after decades and decades of research is not because we don't have some of the smartest minds in the world. It's not because us as human people are not educated and cannot solve problems. It's because people lack resources. It's because we put so much money into not having a cure for HIV. We put so much money into the breast cancer war. We put so much money into the multiple sclerosis war. Those are $1 million companies. If you find a cure, somebody loses money. And as a capitalist society, sometimes pain causes money. Sometimes death equals money. But when we have no choice but to put all of our resources and come together as a people, we will get faster results. Also, there's something called messenger RNA, which was very big in the creation of this vaccine. There has been decades and decades of research into messenger RNA. So the COVID vaccine, this wasn't, yes, it's new, but how we treat it, how our body responds to it, the technologies that we use to create that type of vaccine, there was decades of research done on that. Again, does that mean that you should get it or you should not get it? That is up to the person. And we have to stop trying to put fear onto people. Everybody have the right to their body. And maybe I'm a hypocrite, because when people ask me now, oh, you got it, do you want to give it to your 8-year-old daughter? I don't know. I have fear of that too. So I'm here saying I believe in it, but then I'm saying maybe I shouldn't give it to my daughter, but at the same time, as a person in this society, as a person who care about their neighbor, as a person who care about the people of this nation, maybe if I do get COVID at 27, it won't hurt me. But I'm afraid of my mom. I'm afraid for my grandmother. I'm afraid for my neighbor who lives next door who's 60 years old. So am I sacrificing maybe myself for the greater good? The concept of, oh my God, you can get it and still, you can get the vaccine and still pass away. Yeah, just like the flu. Just like that yellow card that we all have when they were sticking things all in us when we was 5, 6, and 7. At the end of the day, nothing is guaranteed. The success of this podcast, the success of your career when you go to college and you major in something, there's no chance. There's not a guarantee that you're going to be successful. But we do things because we know it creates a greater chance of us being somebody. I went to college and didn't say when I graduate college, I'm going to make $100,000 a year. I went to college saying that I'm going to do these 4 years or 5 years because it's going to put me in a better position, hopefully, to be something better in my life. But I didn't know that. When I started this journey, when I started that journey, when I created the group home, I didn't know what would be successful or not. But I gave my time and dedication to something, and I believed in myself and said, hopefully, this will create other things for me. So that there is a fact that if you get the vaccine, there's a higher chance that you could not pass on this disease. Is it guaranteed? No. I've had the flu shot before and I still got the flu. Bro, what are y'all doing? But we also have to understand that it's not guaranteed. But for the majority of people who do get it, it does lower the standard and you are protecting people. At the end of the day, I don't have the answers. Regardless working in the hospital or not, I don't have the answers. Most people don't have the answers. And that's what we have to understand. It's just about personal choice, your research, and what you think it is. My only thing is just be very careful who you believe in. I think our government as a nation needs to do a better job of getting information to the people and stop making us doubt certain things. And for me personally, I'm biased because I've dedicated my life to medicine. How do I look like walking in the hospital? I believed in medicine my whole life. Medicine has taken care of my family. I don't complain every 2 weeks when I get my check. And now I come and say, I believe in medicine, but I don't believe in the vaccine. I don't believe in nothing y'all doing. I had doubts. I had fears. And when certain people came to me and my family and said, oh my God, you got it, maybe I should get it. No, it's your personal choice. I don't have to agree with your choice, but it's still your choice.
And with that little bell,
Gabe just texted me and said, shut up or you get us canceled. I hope again, like I said, this is not written. This is just coming from the heart.
You know what? It's definitely good to say. It's just a topic that everyone will always look for your opinion on something. And sometimes a lot of people feel they're more right in a context, and some people feel like you're wrong, and
and that's okay.
It's okay. But I feel like it's the most important thing is that you look at it with a grain of salt, and you try to look at it from both angles, both perspectives.
I get why people may go, I always think people should have choice. And that's, we're supposed to be a nation of choice. Especially for the history of my ancestors and people who look like me, for a lot of times we didn't have choice. For women of this nation who weren't able to vote, all women who were scrutinized and hurt, and more, especially black women, but at that point, no women was really having rights. We have came so far, and we are a nation of choices. And unfortunately, we know in this world that some of our choices affect people. If I drink every day, if I smoke every day, that is my right. Right? Cigarettes are free. Trust me. Most of the patients I see in problems is due to cigarette smoking, right? But it's their right. It's their choice. And at the end of the day, we fought so hard in this nation to start having choices. To be people who can make decisions. And we also have to understand that our choices sometimes are going to affect other people. And we have to decide what choices are we going to make. And if the government wants to take over and say, we're not going to allow you to make this choice because it may hurt the greater good, then some people will say, hey, it doesn't matter, it's my choice. And then some people will say, forget them. For me personally, I don't really have an opinion on that. All I would like to say is that whether you do it or whether you not, or whether you don't do it, I have to respect the decision. And I just hope that everybody goes out there and look at the right resources. Really read some research articles. Don't go on YouTube. Don't find some random doctor for Ireland that didn't show you his credentials. I could make a YouTube channel and call myself Dr. Obi and wear a suit, and I could talk about fancy pathologies and all that, and you might believe me. You have to really go in there, really look at real life experience and really try to understand it. And unfortunately, I don't think it's on the fault of the people. There's too much misinformation. Besides COVID, just anything. There's just too much misinformation.
It's true.
There's too many people with platforms that don't deserve it. And then on top of that, sometimes us as medical professionals, it's been times where I just didn't communicate things right to the patient. And, before somebody lets you make a choice on their child, I get it. Maybe I need to do better, right? Maybe the government needs to do better at how we communicate this issue. But I feel like we're too deep in. There was too many mistakes made. There was too much fear. And then when you're mixing your health with politics, when you have small businesses crashing and you have to say something, you have to do something, because this was more than just a health crisis. This was a financial crisis. This was a mental health crisis. So you're trying to find all of these things to balance, and everybody's looking for answers when we don't have answers. And we are too smart as a nation to not see through the bull. And it just caused so many issues. So I really understand both sides of it. So,
with that being said, what time is it right now, actually? Oh, man. It's early, right? It's early.
I'm tired. I done heard 40 sirens. But hey, guys, today I hope I didn't bore you too much. On episodes like this, it was a lot of sensitive topics. We talked about a lot of things that, have probably affected people personally, people choice, people autonomy. And that's part of the Professional Winner podcast, right? Just being real, talking about sensitive content, and trying to bring people close together. And with that, I'm going to try to end it on a positive note and say thank you for tuning in to episode 4 of the Professional Winner podcast. We appreciate you for tuning in. To our new listeners, thank you. I hope you're here to stay. To our old listeners who have been with us since episode 1, thank you for continuing to tune in. But people who didn't come back to this, that's okay too. We still love you. I am your host, your guest, your executive producer, Jonathan Conyers, Mr. TPW. Shout out to Gabe. Thank you all. Love you. God bless. See you soon. Subscribe. Like that little bell. Leave a comment. Tell me that you hate the vaccine. That's fine. Tell me that you love the vaccine. That's fine. I love all of you. Let's get it.
I need a coffee, man.
Upside down, that's my gal. Upside down, upside down. Frown, no, don't you frown. Life is really what you make it. If I die tomorrow, spit my written tap, keys cut, Kendrick and Co. Just to sit